promoting a healthy environment. It's the air we breathe. Clean, safe water. Responsible management of our natural resources to protect and restore for a sustainable future. Environment matters.
We have tried maybe it started 3-4 years ago, trying to educate people on what to do with runoff on their property, what not to put into the storm drains, what not to throw out on the side of the road or in the creek.
Spreading the word, how efforts in West Virginia are making the Chesapeake Bay cleaner. Plus,
they become drop zones for people's trash and garbage and dumping zone, illegal dumps basically.
Abandoned properties are more than just eyesores, they're potential health and safety hazards. How one county's program to clean them up can become a model for the rest of the state. Hello everyone and welcome to Environment Matters. I'm Greg Adolfson with the West Virginia Department of Environmental Protection. When neighbors get together to help clean up their street, the whole community benefits. And that's sort of the thinking behind the Chesapeake Bay initiative. In 2009, President Obama signed an executive order declaring the Chesapeake Bay a national treasure and calling for the natural sustainability of the Bay watershed. West Virginia is one of 6 states that make up the Chesapeake Bay watershed, and as the DEP's Tom Alloys reports, the state has made significant strides to reach that goal.
Indian Run is a small stream that runs through Cacapen State Park in Morgan County. Just a drop in the bucket, really, in the much larger Chesapeake Bay watershed. But those drops have a way of adding up.
And anything we do on the landscape around Indian Run will influence the runoff from the rainwater that flows into Indian Run. So anything we do in the watershed of Indian Run will affect the water that ultimately ends up in the Chesapeake Bay. So we can either have negative impacts or positive impacts.
Alana Hartman is the DEP's Potomac Basin coordinator. 8 eastern panhandle counties, Pendleton, Grant, Mineral, Morgan, Hardy, Hampshire, Berkeley, and Jefferson make up West Virginia's portion of the Potomac River Basin, which is a part of the Bay watershed. As part of the Bay Initiative, the U.S. EPA established the Chesapeake Bay Total Maximum Daily Load. The total maximum daily load is the maximum amount of a pollutant a body of water can receive and still meet its water quality standards. The Chesapeake Bay TMDL targets 3 pollutants: nitrogen, phosphorus, and sediment from sources like agriculture, wastewater treatment facilities, and stormwater runoff.
The reason that nitrogen and phosphorus were identified as the key pollutants to the Chesapeake Bay is that they cause a big bloom of algae in the hot weather, and then that algae dies off, and when the bacteria work on decomposing that algae, they rob the water of oxygen.
West Virginia is currently in the 2nd phase of its watershed implementation plan, which details what the state is doing to meet the goals of the Chesapeake Bay Initiative. But work to improve the quality of water reaching West Virginia's downstream neighbors actually began much earlier.
In 2002, Governor Wise signed a memo of agreement to start working on this problem, and we started telling our permittees in the area, our wastewater plants and industries, that they should be aware that they're going to need to start reducing their nitrogen and phosphorus that's flowing into the local streams. And we started working with watershed groups and making them aware of the issue, because even though our local streams may not have nutrient impairments, we are responsible from the Clean Water Act perspective to reduce those impairments in our local streams so that the downstream waters are protected.
It also meant working with agricultural businesses and convincing them to take voluntary measures.
We all have a responsibility to make sure that the runoff from these properties is not acting like a point source and causing kind of a bunch of pollution in one area flowing into a local stream. And they've known for a long time that there's a lot of practices they can do, like planting trees along streams, moving their feedlots away from streams up to an upland area. For the poultry areas, they can do practices around the poultry house to make sure the runoff is very minimal.
West Virginia's eastern panhandle counties are also some of the most rapidly developing areas of the state, and with that development comes the challenge of dealing with stormwater runoff, a major contributor to the types of water pollution the state's watershed implementation plan is working to limit. Jim Price lives along Indian Run. He says it's important to take a proactive approach.
With the paving and the cul-de-sac that we have and all the runoff that we get, we've added quite a bit of shrubs and trees when we first built. And it's noticeable how it has held actually the property together. We also planted quite a few in the bottom area close to the stream. And they're doing very well. And hopefully the runoff that we get through our property and the adjoining property, that'll eventually help with the erosion, because we have had some problems with erosion.
Volunteers around here have done things like tree plantings, because this forest you see here is actually the best condition for water quality, and where we live and where we farm and where we work is usually not a forest. So adding trees can really help bring the landscape back to a condition that is best for water quality. They've also encouraged businesses to do stormwater friendly practices so that more rainwater will soak into the ground and be filtered before it reaches the creek. They do things like permeable pavement and rain gardens, and they capture rainwater in rain barrels and just try to educate everybody about how too much pavement and too many rooftops can really be detrimental to a creek.
And when it comes to education and outreach, local watershed groups play a major role.
It's probably the most important thing that we do, because if we don't have people who understand what's happening and we don't have the citizens or the residents here in the county helping, we can't really do anything.
Gale Foulds is president of the Sleepy Creek Watershed Association. The Sleepy Creek Watershed covers roughly 94,000 acres and includes dozens of small tributaries like Indian Run.
We do a lot of tree planting. We have done stream bank repair. We have done stream channel changing, redesign, and we've done a lot of assessments and surveys to see what we need and where the problems are on the creek. Everything that we do, every project we talk about, we try to be sure that it's understood by all the people we're talking with that it's ultimately reaching the Chesapeake Bay.
And that's ultimately the message. Like individual threads that make up a cloth, the fabric of a watershed is only as strong, as healthy, as the individual headwater streams that form its creeks and rivers. And maintaining that healthy watershed is a responsibility shared by everyone who lives or works there.
West Virginia is blessed with a lot of little surface streams like this, and we're also blessed with these forested mountainsides and undeveloped areas that the streams spring from. So we start out with nice, healthy, clean water, and I think we have a really good opportunity to just protect the health of those streams in our own boundaries before it goes on to the Potomac.
In Berkeley Springs, I'm Tom Aloise for Environment Matters.
States in the Bay watershed have committed to having 60% of all pollution control measures in place by 2017, with work completed by 2025. The U.S. EPA has praised West Virginia for its progress to meet the pollution reduction goals in the Chesapeake Bay watershed. Helping cities and counties deal with stormwater runoff issues was the goal of a recent workshop in Huntington. And as the DEP's Brent Kessinger reports, the message was all about reaching an audience.
Stormwater runoff is one of the leading causes of water pollution in the United States. It occurs when precipitation from rain or snowmelt flows over the ground. Impervious surfaces like driveways, sidewalks, and streets prevent stormwater runoff from naturally soaking into the ground. In West Virginia, it's regulated through the DEP's Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System, or MS4 permit. One of the requirements of that permit is community outreach and education, and that's what's brought these permit holders from across the state together.
We're helping the communities bring a message right to the person who needs it. So the old way is we tried to tell everybody in the county about everything they could do to keep pollution out of a local stream, and that doesn't actually work very well. Now we're focusing on sending a message to the farmers about what farmers can do, sending a message to the homeowners about what homeowners can do, sending a message to the business owners about what business owners can do, and really taking a message right to the people who can act on it, making it more relevant and more interesting.
What is your closest match?
Eric Eckel is a nationally known expert in messaging skills for environmental topics. The workshop focused on news media, advertising, direct mail, and telemarketing, but also on the use of new media like email campaigns and social media.
The main thing I'm getting out of it, that some of the ideas that I had for the outreach, they would not really be cost effective and mostly not reaching my target audience. This has been very good and instrumental in helping me to spend the dollars wisely for the advertising.
In Huntington, I'm Brent Kessinger for Environment Matters.
About 50 people attended the two-day workshop. One way to reduce the negative effects of stormwater runoff is with a rain garden. A rain garden, or bioretention cell as engineers like to call it, is a system of soils and plants that soak up the water. They're especially helpful beside large paved surfaces like the parking lot here at DEP headquarters, where volunteers from the agency recently performed a little fall house cleaning.
Today we're taking out some weeds and we're removing some of the dead vegetation. We're at the end of the growing season, so there's some dead leaves and branches and bushes that can be removed to make room for new growth next spring. So we're just trying to tidy it up and make it look nice for the fall season.
Rain gardens mimic the action of a healthy forest by slowing the flow and soaking up a significant amount of stormwater runoff. Plant root systems help direct it back into the groundwater, and the leaves, through transpiration, return it to the air as water vapor. The plants also filter out pollutants. A properly designed garden can significantly cut down the amount of pollution reaching a stream. Adding a rain garden to your landscape is easy and relatively inexpensive. Here's the DEP's Sarah Alford with a few tips to help get you started.
Thanks, Greg. If your soil already drains well, great, you're halfway there. If you have heavier clay soils, you will probably need to add organic material like compost or mulch and sand in the top foot or so of your planting area. If you have really poor drainage, you may want to consider adding a layer of gravel to the bottom. Locate your rain garden in a sunny location, downslope from your house and away from its foundation. When digging your rain garden, leave it with a slight depression. This will help retain excess runoff and allow more time for it to seep into the ground. Rain gardens typically contain plants that are native to your area, a mixture of perennials, shrubs, and wildflowers. Your county extension agent or local plant center can help you with specific suggestions. Rain gardens don't need to be fertilized, and once they're established, they're pretty low maintenance. They encourage wildlife, birds, and beneficial insects. And since they're actually dry most of the time, they do not provide a breeding ground for mosquitoes. In Charleston, I'm Sarah Alford for Environment Matters.
Thanks, Sarah. You can also find plenty of information on design, construction, and planting by searching rain garden on the internet. Coming up, fuel costs getting you down? What if you could save 40% and help the environment? Why school leaders are giving an old fuel a second look. We'll have that story right after the break. But first, did you know that American businesses throw away 21 million tons of paper every year? That's equal to 175 pounds per office worker. For a quick and easy way to cut that in half, set your printer's default option on print double-sided or duplex printing. And when you're finished with the documents, don't forget to take them to the recycling bin. We're back in a moment.